I'm Nathan Carter, a lawyer in Seattle, but right now, just a betrayed husband. When Elena went on a business trip, she left her iPad on the table. I didn't mean to look until an Instagram notification from a strange account popped up. Not her fashion account, Luxora, but a secret one. I opened it and froze. Messages, intimate photos between Elena and Ryan Mitchell, a model. I miss you, he wrote. Tonight was amazing, she replied. Each word cut into me like a knife. Before diving into the story, comment where you're watching from, and don't forget to subscribe so you won't miss the latest stories. I stood in our penthouse living room, the glow of the Space Needle in the distance streaming through the glass, but it couldn't calm the storm inside me. I waited for hours, each minute dragging like a century, until the sound of the door lock clicked. Elena walked in, her dress sparkling from a fashion event, her smile fading when she saw me standing there, my eyes cold as steel. "Elena, are you cheating on me?" "I have proof," I said, my voice trembling but firm, repeating the question I'd asked myself all night. She paused, looking at me like a stranger, then laughed. A sharp, chilling laugh that twisted my heart. "Nathan, do you really think you're enough to keep me?" she replied, without a hint of remorse. "You're just an ordinary lawyer, always buried in meaningless cases, neglecting me. You were never exciting enough to captivate me." I was stunned, like I'd been slapped. "What are you saying, Elena?" I growled, trying to stay calm. "I have a job. You knew that when we got married. I never neglected you. You're the one who stopped coming home, stopped talking, and now I know why." I pointed at the iPad, where her messages with Ryan still glowed. "You think I didn't notice your lies about business trips, the hotels, the gifts? You cheated, Elena, and you dare blame me." She crossed her arms, her eyes dripping with disdain. "Oh, Nathan, you're pathetic. Ryan is a real man, unlike you. You're nothing compared to him. Not rich, not handsome, not classy enough to match me. I'm done with this boring life." Her words stung, each one rubbing salt into my pride. I'm a lawyer, I win big cases, but in my wife's eyes, I was a failure. "Elena, how can you say that?" I asked, my voice choking, tears welling up. "All these years I've stood by you, kept our marriage vows, put you above everything. What did I do to deserve this?" I stepped closer, hoping for a flicker of regret in her eyes, but there was none. She scoffed, turning away. "Nathan, you'll never get it. I deserve someone like Ryan, someone who makes me shine. You just drag me down." I stood there, the ground crumbling beneath me. "What are you saying? You think Ryan will give you a perfect life?" I asked, my voice shaking with anger. She lifted her chin, her eyes arrogant. "Yes, Nathan, I'm divorcing you, and Ryan will be the man by my side. I've hired a great lawyer, Lucas Hayes. Talk to him. Now get out of this penthouse. I don't want to see your face anymore." Her words hit like a punch to the chest. "Divorce? Leave?" I looked at her, the woman I once loved more than myself, now standing before me like a stranger. "Elena, you'll regret this," I said, my voice low but resolute. She smirked, turning her back and walking into the bedroom, leaving me in the empty room. I couldn't stay another minute. I grabbed my keys and left the penthouse, the cold Seattle air slapping my face. I walked the streets near Pioneer Square, a light rain soaking my coat. Each step felt heavy, carrying the weight of pain and humiliation. My pride, built over years as a lawyer, was trampled by Elena. She called me a failure, said I wasn't man enough, but I knew I wasn't the man she described. I kept my vows, loved her sincerely, and now she betrayed me without remorse. I stopped under a street lamp, rain streaking down my face, mixing with tears I couldn't hold back. "You're wrong, Elena," I muttered, clenching my fists. "I'm not someone you can dismiss." In my mind, the Instagram messages replayed, the hotel receipts, her divorce declaration. I knew I couldn't let this end like this. I'm a lawyer. I know how to fight. Elena thought she could walk away easily, but she was wrong. I'd show her who I am, and she'd pay for her betrayal. I looked back toward the penthouse. Part of me wanted to run back, beg Elena to change, but I knew it was pointless. She chose Ryan, chose to destroy our marriage. I took a deep breath, wiping the rain from my face. I wouldn't break. I'd face her. After the confrontation with Elena, I wandered in the rain for hours near Pioneer Square, trying to piece together the shards of my heart. The storm of emotions kept raging inside me, unrelenting. Her insults, failure, not man enough, echoed in my mind. She declared divorce, demanded I leave the penthouse, and I walked out like a defeated man. But something in me, an unquenchable spark, told me I couldn't let this end so easily. I returned to pack my things, preparing to leave for good. But facing this house, my heart grew heavy. She took everything, yet unknowingly left a fire in me I couldn't ignore. Each step in the penthouse felt like walking through memories, shattered illusions, and I couldn't stop wondering, is this really the end? As I packed in the living room, the doorbell rang, pulling me from my thoughts. I opened the door and faced Xander, a former Luxora employee who worked for Elena. He held a thick envelope, his eyes hesitant, like he carried a burden of guilt. "Nathan, I'm so sorry," Xander said, his voice low, almost a whisper. He handed me the envelope, and I knew instantly it was divorce papers. My hands trembled as I took it, as if it weighed a ton, pressing on every nerve in my body. "She told me to bring this," Xander continued, avoiding my gaze. "I didn't want to do this, but Elena, she insisted." I said nothing, just nodded coldly, closing the door. Xander lingered, as if wanting to say more, then turned and walked away quickly, leaving me with the envelope and the loneliness swelling in my chest. I sat on the sofa, my body heavy, sinking into despair. The envelope in my hands was an unshakable weight. The Space Needle's light streamed through the glass, but the penthouse felt colder than ever. Everything had changed, and I didn't know where to start. I opened the envelope, scanning the dry, emotionless words. Divorce petition, asset division, and Elena's signature, rigid and cold, like her personality. Each word hammered my chest. For years I loved her, gave everything to build this life, yet now she wanted to erase me from hers, like I never existed. The pain burned in my chest, and I couldn't hold back tears. I felt like the failure she called me. But then, amidst the pain, a thought sparked. Prenup. The prenuptial agreement I insisted on before we married, despite Elena mocking me as too cautious. She never thought I'd use it, but now it would be my weapon to fight for justice. I stood wiping tears and walked to the safe in the corner. My hands trembled, not from pain, but from the tension rising in me. I pulled out the prenup copy, my hands still shaking as I flipped through the pages, rereading the terms, our signatures. The infidelity clause was clear. If Elena cheated, I'd own 50% of her fashion company, Lux Aura. She once dismissed it as unnecessary, but now it was the key to turning the tables. My hands gripped the prenup, but my heart no longer raced. Pain gave way to resolve. Elena thought she could crush me, kick me out of the penthouse, and live happily with Ryan Mitchell, the model she betrayed me with. But she was wrong. She underestimated the man standing before her. I wasn't someone she could discard. I'm a lawyer. I know how to fight, and I have proof. The Instagram messages, hotel receipts, everything she thought she'd buried, were now my ultimate weapons for justice. She wanted a divorce, to end it all. Fine, but I'd make her pay dearly for what she did. I stepped onto the balcony, looking down at Seattle's twinkling lights, where I once dreamed of a future with Elena. Rain streaked the glass, but I no longer felt cold. All I felt was fire. Elena hurt me, but she didn't know I'd use those wounds to fight back. She thought she'd won, but I knew this battle was just beginning. Everything outside blurred, like my emotions, but deep inside, one thing remained intact, my pride. Elena may have trampled it with her betrayal, with sweet, venomous insults, but it never died. It just retreated, waiting for the right moment to ignite. And now it blazed fiercely. I tucked the divorce papers into my old leather suitcase, the only thing left from my early days, entering the legal world with ambition and passion. Without hesitation, I decided to leave what was once home, the cold penthouse where Elena once said she loved me with a smile. I later realized was fake. I'd moved to my lakeside house on Mercer Island, where I lived before my life tangled with Elena, and there I'd prepare for a battle she couldn't imagine. Elena might have a great lawyer, might know the media, but I'm no amateur. I dragged the suitcase through the silent hallway. Rain fell, cold wind slipped under my collar, but I felt nothing, maybe because my heart had no room left for weakness. After receiving the divorce papers from Xander, a close lawyer friend who delivered the bad news with pitying eyes, the pain nearly broke me. But no, it was the spark I needed to fuel my resolve as a man once dismissed. Elena thought she could cast me out of her life, like an outdated item. But she forgot I'm Nathan Carter, a seasoned corporate lawyer who's won multi-million-dollar cases and never flinched before any power. And now, I wasn't just fighting to win. I was fighting for justice for myself. I drove through rain-soaked streets, streetlights reflecting on the road like fragments of the past. At Mercer Island, it still rained, but something in me settled. I opened the wooden door of the lakeside house, once my peaceful refuge before love with Elena swept me into a whirlwind. The smell of old wood, the dampness of time, and the absolute quiet of the island greeted me with a feeling both strange and familiar. I set the suitcase by the fireplace, shed my coat, and sat at the desk near the window. I pulled out the prenup copy, something Elena smirked at when I suggested it. "You're too cautious, Nathan," she said, leaning her head on my shoulder. "Don't you trust me?" Her voice was sweet as wine, but now I only tasted the bitterness of deceit. I read each line of the prenup. My heart pounded as my eyes landed on a clause clear as a verdict. In case of infidelity by Party B, Elena Duval Carter. Party A, Nathan Carter, shall be entitled to 50% ownership of any jointly founded assets during the marriage, including but not limited to the fashion company Lux Aura. She thought I'd never use this paper, but now it would be the nightmare she never saw coming. I opened my laptop. The screen's light illuminated my face, reflecting the coldness of a man no longer afraid of loss. I began gathering evidence, every piece of the betrayal puzzle. The Instagram messages between her and Ryan Mitchell were still on my phone. I screenshot every message, every sweet word, laced with lust and contempt for me. I dug up hotel receipts, lavish gifts bought with company cards, all bearing Elena's traces, as if she didn't bother hiding. Each piece of evidence was a loaded bullet, ready to fire.
Fire in the upcoming trial.
And I was the one pulling the trigger. I wrote an email to Lucas Hayes, Elena's lawyer, a seasoned name, who's represented major tycoons. But I knew he wasn't expecting Nathan Carter. "We need to discuss Elena Duval Carter's divorce," I typed. The words were brief but sharp as a blade. Lucas would think this was a standard divorce, until he realized I was the man Elena never dared fully describe in their marriage. A man with a plan, and the law on his side. I hit send, then set the laptop down. Before leaving the penthouse, I left Elena one message. "I've left your penthouse, Elena, but you won't keep Lux Aura. I have proof, and I know my rights." Soon after, my phone buzzed. "You're such a fool, Nathan. My lawyer will make you regret this. Leave me alone, loser." I smirked. She was as arrogant as ever, as if words could erase consequences. But Elena didn't know her arrogance had flung open the door to her downfall. I stared at the message, then whispered like a declaration. "Just wait, Elena." I set the phone aside, stood and walked to the window. The lake was still, reflecting distant lights like a mirror of myself. The man who lost his wife but found himself. Mercer Island was peaceful, a world apart from the city's drama and broken dreams. But today, I no longer needed to prove anything to her. I only needed one thing: justice. And I knew I'd get it. I stood on the balcony, breathing the damp air. The rain had stopped, but clouds lingered, like my mood. I thought of the years with Elena, the times I sacrificed time and dreams to support her. She betrayed me, but I wouldn't let her destroy me. The prenup, evidence, and my legal skills would be my tools to reclaim justice. I looked at my phone. Elena's message still glowed, but I didn't reply. I'd let my actions speak. I sat in my Mercer Island lakeside house, the light from the water reflecting through the window, but my mind was fixed on the battle ahead. After gathering evidence, Instagram messages, hotel receipts, photos of Elena and Ryan Mitchell, I was ready. The prenup, with its infidelity clause granting me half of Lux Aura, was my ace. Elena thought she could crush me, but she didn't know who she was up against. I'd emailed Lucas Hayes, her lawyer, requesting a meeting. Today, at a Belltown bar, I'd show him Nathan Carter wasn't someone to bully. I drove through light rain, the city lights hazy in the fog. The Belltown bar, with its neon sign and warm atmosphere, was where I chose to meet Lucas. I walked in, my coat still damp, and saw him in a corner, his suit pristine, flipping through files. Lucas Hayes, a renowned lawyer, but today, he'd be surprised. I approached, flashing a cold smile. "Lucas, hello," I said, shaking his hand. He smiled, confident, but I sensed he didn't know who I was. "Hello, Nathan, right?" Lucas asked, his tone polite but slightly smug. "I represent Elena Brooks. She says you want to drag out the divorce, but I suggest you settle quickly. It's better for both." I sat, locking eyes with him, and smirked. "Lucas, you're mistaken. I don't want to drag this out, but I won't let Elena take what's mine." He frowned, clearly not expecting my response. "Elena cheated, Lucas," I said, my voice calm but sharp, "and I have proof. She didn't tell you, did she? I pulled a file from my briefcase, placing it on the table. Copies of Instagram messages, photos of Elena and Ryan at hotels, receipts from Lux Aura's account. Lucas stared at the file, his eyes widening, his hand freezing on his drink. What? What is this? He stammered, flipping through pages. I pressed on, giving him no chance to recover. She cheated with Ryan Mitchell, a model. I have everything: messages, photos, receipts, and more importantly, Lucas, do you know about the prenup? He looked up, his face pale. Prenup? Elena didn't mention anything. His voice shook, and I knew I had the upper hand. That's a shame, I said, my tone mocking. The prenup states, if Elena cheats, I get half of Lux Aura. I guess she forgot to tell you, huh? I slid the prenup copy across the table, and Lucas flipped through it at double speed, sweat beading on his forehead. This clause, it's legally signed, he muttered, as if he couldn't believe his eyes. I crossed my arms, watching him squirm. Lucas, I know you're a good lawyer, but Elena played you like a puppet. She didn't mention the affair, the prenup, and now you're sitting here, unprepared. I don't want to drag out the divorce, but I'll take what's mine. You should talk to your client. Lucas stared at me, mouth agape, then nodded weakly. I'll talk to Elena. I didn't know about this, Nathan. I'm sorry. He tried to regain composure, but I saw his panic. I stood, leaving the file on the table. Keep it, Lucas. I have copies. And tell Elena I'm not playing. I turned, walking out of the bar, the cold Belltown air hitting my face. Adrenaline surged through me. For the first time since discovering Elena's affair, I felt in control. Lucas didn't know who he was facing, and neither did Elena. She called me a failure, but I'm a lawyer, and I know how to win. Back home, I sat at my desk, the lake shimmering outside. I checked my email. Lucas had sent a brief message. I need time to review. We'll contact soon. I smirked, knowing he was panicking. I sat in my house, my mind still reeling from the meeting with Lucas Hayes. I'd rattled him, exposing Elena's affair and the prenup she tried to hide. I sipped coffee, smiling at the thought of Lucas's pale face. But the smile faded when my phone buzzed. Elena's name flashing on the screen. I answered, my voice cold. What, Elena? She didn't wait a second, screaming into the phone. Nathan, what did you do to my lawyer? Lucas says you showed him some nonsense evidence and threatened him. You think you can ruin me like that? Her voice shook with rage, but I heard the panic beneath. I smirked, staying calm. Ruin? Elena, I just told the truth. You cheated with Ryan, and I have proof. What about the prenup? You forgot to tell Lucas about it, didn't you? I emphasized each word, feeling like I was stabbing her arrogance. She went silent, then screamed. You're so low, Nathan. I'll find another lawyer, a better one, and I'll make you regret this. I laughed, confidence surging. Go ahead, Elena. But I'm Nathan Carter, a respected corporate lawyer in Seattle. No one in this industry wants to face me, especially with a prenup in evidence. I heard her gasp, struggling for a comeback. But she hung up. I set the phone down, feeling like I'd won another round. In the days that followed, I heard rumors that Elena contacted other lawyers, but none took her case. My reputation in the legal world, combined with the ironclad prenup and affair evidence, made them refute. I sat on Mercer Island, checking emails, seeing Lucas's short message. I can no longer represent Elena. She needs to find another lawyer. I laughed aloud, knowing Elena was cornered. She underestimated me, and now she was paying. One morning, as I brewed coffee, the doorbell rang. I opened the door, and there was Elena, no longer her usual arrogant self. Her hair was messy, eyes shadowed, her dress far from the sparkling gowns of fashion events. Nathan, she said, her voice small, almost a whisper. We need to talk. I crossed my arms, my gaze cold. Talk, Elena, but make it quick. I don't have time for you. I let her in, not because I wanted to, but to avoid neighbors seeing this. She sat on the sofa, clutching her purse. Nathan, I'm begging you. Don't take half of Lux Aura, she said, her voice trembling. It's all I have. I know I was wrong, but we can fix this. Maybe we can get back together. I was stunned, then laughed, a bitter laugh. Get back together? Elena, are you joking? You called me a failure, cheated with Ryan, and now you're begging for Lux Aura. She lowered her head, tears rolling down her cheeks, but I felt no pity. Nathan, I was wrong, she whispered. Ryan doesn't matter. I'll cut him off. We can start over, I swear. I looked at her, the woman who crushed my pride, and felt a cold satisfaction. I said, my voice firm, you betrayed me, insulted me, and now you think a few tears will make me forget. You signed the prenup, and you'll lose half of Luxora. That's your consequence. She looked up, eyes red, pleading. But I didn't waver. Nathan, please. Her voice shook, repeating her weak plea. I cut her off. Enough, Elena. My voice was final. Get out of my house. From now on, only contact me through lawyers. I walked to the door, opened it, and stepped aside, gesturing for her to leave. She stood, her steps heavy, dragging her defeat. As Elena crossed the threshold, her eyes held no trace of the woman who once thought herself invincible. I closed the door, not loudly, no burst of anger, just a silent end. And as the door shut behind her, I stood there for a moment, feeling like I'd shed a burden that had weighed me down for months. Elena tried to manipulate me one last time, with fake tears, a broken gaze. But this time, I wasn't the man blindly trusting her love. The game was over. I knew I'd won when Lucas Hayes, her top-tier lawyer, backed out. I forced Elena to come back, begging me in vain. But I was no longer the old Nathan. I had everything. The prenup, fair evidence, and an undeniable reputation in Seattle's legal world. Elena tried finding new lawyers, but no one dared take a divorce case against me. Nathan Carter. No one wanted to risk their career for a woman who'd lost everything. To keep distance from Elena and avoid emotions interfering, I decided not to represent myself in the divorce. Instead, I enlisted Lynn, a trusted colleague at Sterling and Associates, to handle it. Lynn was a seasoned, sharp lawyer, unshaken by emotional theatrics. We prepared the case, the clearly signed prenup, Elena's Instagram messages to Ryan Mitchell, hotel receipts from their stays, and photos of them hand in Malibu. Each piece of evidence was a nail in the coffin of Elena's pride. She had no ground to fight. The trial took place on a cold Seattle morning. I didn't sit at the lawyer's table, just quietly in the back, watching like a sober spectator. Elena bowed her head as she signed over half of Luxora, the company we once built together, but she later claimed all the glory for. Her eyes held no pride, only resignation and bitterness. But that wasn't the end. Soon after, I heard Ryan Mitchell cut all contact with Elena once he learned she lost control of half the company. Turns out, the young model was after fame and money, never truly loyal. Without Luxora, Elena had nothing left to offer him. The betrayal she dealt me became a double-edged sword, stabbing her own heart. On social media, Elena's affair scandal spread like wildfire. Twitter, Reddit, tabloids, everywhere mocked her and Luxora's downfall. Those who once praised her turned away. Clients canceled orders in droves, and the company's stock plummeted. Worse, to pay off debts from her reckless spending with Ryan, she had to sell the lavish penthouse, the symbol of the glamorous life she flaunted. Now, Elena lives in a small suburban apartment, far from the spotlight, far from the glamour and power that once fueled her arrogance. I don't gloat, but I don't pity her. This is the consequence of the choices she made. I once loved Elena, loved her blindly. But today, I stand here, clear-eyed and free. I'm no longer a victim. I'm the man who reclaimed justice for himself. And in the silence after the battle, I realized one thing. Sometimes, the best revenge isn't anger. It's letting them fall from the heights they climbed, by their own hands. I, on the other hand, savor my victory. Not just a courtroom win. That's just the surface. What I gained, above all, is freedom. Peace after the storm. Myself, no longer bound by manipulation, betrayal and venomous worry that nearly broke me. The income from half of Luxora, though the company is in decline, still lets me upgrade to the life I've dreamed of. I bought a new house in Queen Anne, where tree-lined streets lead to gentle slopes, where I can sit by a large window each night, watching Puget Sound sparkle under moonlight, and seeing the Space Needle's lights flicker like a beacon of hope that never fades. That house isn't just a home. It's a symbol of a new chapter in my life. One without Elena, without late-night arguments, without feeling judged, belittled, or conditionally loved. I stood in the living room one crisp morning, coffee in hand, steam rising warmly. Through the clear glass, the city stretched before me like a greeting. I smiled, not a proud smile, but a peaceful one. Elena tried to crush me, but she didn't know that when a man hits rock bottom, he has nothing left to fear. I stood up, and this time I stand stronger than ever. After the divorce, I left the storm called Elena behind, like a bad dream. Half of Luxora is mine, but I have no ambition to run it. I hired a professional CEO with vision and experience in fashion. To me, Luxora is no longer a symbol of a dead marriage, but an asset, something I can use to build my future. I returned to being myself. No, a better version of myself. Still working at Sterling and Associates, still a sharp and tough lawyer, but now I know balance. I started making time for myself, jogging each morning around Queen Anne, where the hills push my heart to race and clear my mind. I meet friends more, dine, laugh, share stories unrelated to court or evidence. Sometimes, I even think about a new relationship, not rushed, not expectant, just feeling the warmth of human connection again. The wounds Elena left are now just echoes from the past. They hurt, deeply, but I didn't let them define me. I learned my worth isn't in how others see me, but in how I overcome pain and move forward. I'm a lawyer, yes, but above all, I'm a man who rose, after hurt, healed himself, and learned to value himself. One evening, I walked to Cary Park, where Seattle's skyline unfolds like a perfect painting. Wind tugged at my coat, cold but pleasant. The Space Needle glowed in the distance, a lighthouse in the night sea. I took a deep breath, clean, hopeful air. Each breath was a confirmation. I'd overcome it all. Nathan Carter's journey, in this new script, reflects real aspects of life in the U.S. today, especially issues of marriage, self-worth, and legal battles in a modern social context. Nathan, a corporate lawyer in Seattle, discovers his wife Elena's affair via Instagram, a popular social media platform, showing technology's role in exposing truth, but also deepening personal wounds. The confrontation with Elena, where she insults him as a failure and not man enough, reflects societal pressure on American men to maintain a strong, successful image, especially in competitive cities like Seattle. Nathan's use of a prenuptial agreement, prenup, to claim half of Elena's Luxora, highlights the importance of legal agreements in U.S. marriages, where state laws like Washington's protect community property, but also honor prenups. Elena's downfall through a Twitter scandal and selling her penthouse reflects U.S. social media culture, where reputations can vanish overnight. Nathan's victory, from moving to a new Queen Anne home to reflecting at Cary Park, embodies resilience and reinvention, a core American value. Subscribe to the channel to follow inspiring stories like Nathan's triumphant journey, and thank you for joining us. See you in the next video with deeper life lessons.